So this happened about a month ago, and I still can't wrap my head around it. I live alone in a pretty quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just a basic 2-story house with a small yard. A while back, my friend convinced me to set up security cameras around my place. One in the front yard, one in the back, and one covering my driveway, just in case, you know. For the most part, they never caught anything interesting, just the usual stuff. Neighbors walking their dogs, the occasional stray cat and raccoons digging through my trash. I'd check the feed sometimes out of boredom, but it was always the same. Normal, predictable. Then one night I got a motion alert at 3:23 a.m. I wouldn't have even checked it. I mean, probably just another raccoon. But something about it made me pause. The air in my upstairs bedroom felt thick, like the weight of the night had suddenly grown heavier. My gut twisted with a feeling I couldn't quite place. When I pulled up the live feed, my blood turned to ice. There was a man standing in my driveway. He wasn't moving, wasn't even looking at my house. He was just standing there, facing the camera, perfectly still. The longer I stared, the worse it got. His posture was unnaturally rigid, his head tilted just slightly, like he was thinking about something specific. The worst part, I recognized him. He looked exactly like me. Same hoodie, same messy hair, same tired expression. But something was off. The version of me on the screen wasn't breathing. His chest didn't rise and fall. His arms were just a little too long. His fingers twitched, slightly, as if testing movement for the first time. I blinked, and he took a step forward. Panic surged through me. My hands were ice cold as I fumbled with my phone, rewinding the footage to see how this thing got there. I expected to see him walking up from the street, maybe creeping in from the shadows. But no. One frame, the driveway was empty. The next, he was just there. No approach, no movement, just a sudden appearance. I sat there staring at the screen, waiting for something else to happen. But nothing did. He didn't move again. He didn't blink. He just stood there, watching the camera, motionless. Eventually, after what felt like forever, I checked the time. 3:25 a.m. The motion alert had stopped. When I refreshed the feed, the driveway was empty again. I set my phone down, heart still racing. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe I was overtired, imagining things. But something in my gut told me otherwise. The next morning, I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it had to be some weird error. But as I went through my day, I couldn't stop glancing at my phone, checking the camera feed out of sheer paranoia. Everything was normal. My yard was empty, the street quiet. Still, I couldn't shake the image of that figure, of me, standing there. That night, before heading to bed, I hesitated before turning off the lights. I checked the driveway camera one more time. Empty. I sighed in relief and set my phone down. But as I lay there, I couldn't help but wonder, what if it happens again? I forced myself to sleep, but my rest was uneasy. My dreams were filled with flickering images of my own face, staring back at me through a grainy camera feed. Every time I turned away, the image got closer, the static louder. And when I woke up, another motion alert. 3:23 a.m. I swallowed hard and reached for my phone with shaky fingers, dreading what I would see. The feed loaded slowly. the buffering wheel spinning as my heartbeat thundered in my ears. And then finally, the image appeared. The driveway was empty. I exhaled shakily, but the relief didn't last long, because just before the screen refreshed again, I could have sworn I saw something move, something that looked just like me. The rest of the night passed in a haze of restless paranoia. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through my phone mindlessly, but my attention kept flicking back to the security feed. What if he was still out there, just waiting for the right moment to return? Morning arrived, and I told myself it was over. But when I left for work, I caught myself glancing around my driveway, half expecting to see him standing there, waiting. Nothing. Still, I couldn't shake the unease in my gut. As the day dragged on, I kept checking my cameras, obsessively refreshing the footage, even though I knew it was pointless. There was nothing there. Yet the thought haunted me. What if I only saw him at night? What if he only existed when I wasn't looking directly at him? That night I forced myself to sleep, but deep down I already knew what would happen. And sure enough, at exactly 3:23 a.m., my phone buzzed with a new motion alert. I hesitated this time, fingers hovering over the screen. Did I really want to know? Could I handle seeing him again? I took a deep breath and opened the feed. The driveway was empty. I waited, staring at the screen, barely blinking. And then, just as my eyes started to burn from the strain, the image flickered. And he was there, standing just a little closer than before. I barely slept after that. Every sound in the house made me jump. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the old pipes, even the wind against the windows. I was hyper-aware of it all. But no matter how much I told myself it was a glitch, an error, something explainable, I couldn't shake the unease curling in my stomach. The next night when I went to bed, I determined not to check my phone. I figured if I ignored it, it would go away. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Wrong. At exactly 3:23 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A new motion alert. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing myself not to look. I rolled over, stuffing my head under the pillow like a child avoiding the monster under the bed. And then my phone buzzed again, and again, and again. Frustration overtook my fear. I wasn't going to let some glitchy camera ruin my night. With a surge of anger, I threw the blanket off, grabbed my old baseball bat, and stormed downstairs. If someone was messing with me, I was about to put an end to it. I swung the front door open, stepping onto the porch. The cold night air bit at my skin, but I barely noticed. I gripped the bat tighter and scanned the driveway. Nothing. The street was empty, no movement, no strange figures lurking in the shadows. "Hello?" I called, my voice firm but tense. Silence answered me. My breath formed small clouds in the cold air, the only sign of life around me. I took a few more steps onto the lawn, eyes flicking left and right. Still nothing. I exhaled sharply, rubbing my temple. Maybe I really was just losing it. Maybe the stress was getting to me. I turned to head back inside, shaking my head at my own paranoia. Then I saw it. My bedroom window. A figure stood there looking down at me. Not just any figure. It was me. The imposter me stared through the glass, face blank, eyes hollow. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It just watched. A cold dread crawled up my spine. My stomach twisted, my mind racing with explanations that didn't make sense. I was outside. My bedroom was empty. So how? The thing raised a hand. Slowly, deliberately, it pressed one palm against the glass, a perfect mirror image of my own hand. But something was off. The fingers were just a little too long, the skin stretched too tight, too pale. It wasn't just a reflection. It was something else. I staggered back, my breath catching in my throat. My body screamed at me to move, to run, but I was rooted in place, hypnotized by my own impossible double. The figure in the window tilted its head like it was studying me, mimicking my confusion. Then, in an instant, it vanished. One blink, and the window was empty. I didn't hesitate. I bolted inside, slamming the door behind me and locking it tight. My chest heaved as I pressed my back against the wood, bat still clenched in my hands. My mind reeled. What the hell had I just seen? But I wasn't done. I wasn't just going to sit there, waiting for something to happen. I needed to check everything. I took slow, cautious steps, gripping the bat so tightly my knuckles ached. I moved from room to room, flicking on every light as I went. The kitchen, empty. The living room, nothing. I checked behind the couch, inside the coat closet, even under the dining table. My breathing was shallow, my ears straining for the slightest sound. Then I moved upstairs. My bedroom door still stood ajar, just as I had left it. My stomach twisted, but I pushed forward. I checked under the bed, inside the closet, behind the curtains, every possible hiding spot. Nothing. But the feeling didn't leave me. I walked to the bathroom, bracing myself as I yanked the shower curtain back. Again, nothing. My reflection in the mirror looked pale, shaken, like a man who had already convinced himself something was coming. I stepped into the hallway, bat still raised, scanning every shadowed corner. My home was empty. I knew it. But the moment I tried to convince myself I was safe, a feeling of being watched crept up my spine. I swallowed hard and went back to my room, locking the door behind me. I placed the bat beside my bed, but sleep was impossible. My gaze kept flicking toward the window. The memory of it pressing its face against the glass burned into my mind. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself that I was just paranoid. Maybe I had imagined everything. Maybe stress and exhaustion had gotten to me. But no matter how much I tried to rationalize it, the image of my own face pressed against the glass wouldn't leave my mind. I couldn't stay here. With shaking hands, I grabbed my phone and did the only thing that made sense. I called the police. I didn't tell them the truth. How could I? Saying I had seen myself staring at me from my own bedroom window sounded ridiculous. Instead, I told them I thought someone had broken into my house. It wasn't entirely a lie. Whatever I had seen, it wasn't supposed to be there. They arrived within 10 minutes, 2 officers stepping out of their squad car, flashlights cutting through the night. I met them at the door, still clutching the baseball bat. I must have looked insane, standing there in my wrinkled t-shirt and sweatpants, wide-eyed and sleep-deprived. One officer, a stocky man with graying hair, asked me to explain what happened. I told him everything, except the part about seeing myself. I just said I saw a figure, someone standing in my window. I told them I had checked the whole house, but I was too afraid to go back upstairs alone. They exchanged a glance but didn't question it. Instead, they did a full sweep of the house. I waited outside, my arms crossed against the cold. The minutes dragged on, the occasional beam of their flashlights flickering through the windows. Every creak of my house sent chills down my spine as I waited for them to return with news that they had found something. But they didn't. Finally, they returned to me, shaking their heads. "House is clear," one of them said. "No signs of forced entry. No footprints. No evidence that anyone was inside." My stomach twisted. I wanted to argue, to tell them they had missed something, but I knew how it sounded. I nodded numbly instead. Then it hit me. I had proof. "I have security cameras," I blurted out. "I can show you." They followed me inside, and I pulled up the footage on my phone, my hands trembling. I scrolled to 3:23 a.m., the moment it all happened. I hit play. Nothing. The driveway was empty, the house undisturbed. I skipped ahead, scanning frame by frame, my pulse pounding. But there was nothing there. No shadowy figure. No movement in the window. No sign that anyone had been watching me. Just nothing. I stared at the screen, my breath shallow. The officers shifted uncomfortably behind me. One of them cleared his throat. "Listen, sir. Maybe you were half asleep. Sometimes exhaustion plays tricks on the mind." I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream at them that I knew what I saw. But what could I say? I was out of options. "Yeah," I muttered. "Maybe." They left soon after, giving me a sympathetic nod and a half-hearted assurance to call again if anything else happened. I locked the door behind them. I couldn't stay here. Not tonight. I needed to clear my head. I grabbed my car keys and drove to my friend Jake's house. He was used to my late-night paranoia, and when I knocked on his door, he didn't even ask questions, just waved me inside. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, just rough night." He didn't press. He tossed me a blanket, yawned, and went to his room. Within minutes, I could hear him snoring. I envied how easily he could sleep. I sighed, sinking into the couch, my body heavy with exhaustion. For the first time in hours, I felt like I could finally relax. My hands reached for my phone, checking notifications out of habit. That's when I felt it. I pulled it out, a small, crumpled, sticky note. My breath caught in my throat. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. There was a message written in shaky, uneven letters. It read, "This is how close I got to you.